Evening, an uncertain future for Comair, based in Erlanger.
The I-Team has discovered the airline could be shutting down in a matter of months. 9 News anchor Brendan Keefe is here now to break the story. Brendan?
Carol and Clyde, pilots and other Comair employees fear the airline may cease to operate on October 1st, according to multiple sources inside and outside Comair. Those sources tell us certain maintenance orders and pilot schedules do not exist beyond the end of September. Comair is a wholly owned subsidiary of Delta Airlines, which cut Comair's fleet essentially in half over the last 2 years to just 44 jets, and Delta plans future reductions of its 50-seat regional jets. We called Delta for comment on our report. A spokesperson would neither confirm nor deny Comair is closing. But Delta released this statement, quote, in view of the significant changes in economic and competitive conditions in the regional airline industry in recent years, Delta continues to explore strategic alternatives for Comair, as previously announced. Until a final decision has been made, we cannot comment further. This statement mirrors an internal email to employees who are focusing on the words final decision used by Comair's president and now also by Delta. Joining me now is my colleague, I-Team investigator Hagit Lamore. And Hagit, you had an interesting idea to see if what we're hearing is true. What did you do?
Well, I did a search on the computer looking for Delta flights that are Comair operated. Now, for example, CVG to LaGuardia. And what happened was we looked at several flights which were listed as operated by Comair in the last week of September. But if you look 1 week later, in October, Comair disappears from parts of the Delta schedule. The New York flights are either operated by Delta or another of its regional affiliates like GoJet. Mysteriously, Comair still is listed on the Delta schedule from CVG to Detroit and to Nashville in October, but not to LaGuardia. Now, this would be a big loss for Cincinnati, but it's more like a slow motion tragedy, with Delta cutting the size of Comair in the last decade since it bought the one-time aviation innovator.
Pilots belong in the cockpits, not walking on picket lines.
But that's what they did. In 2001, more than 1,300 pilots went on strike for almost 3 months. They fought for decent pay and decent work conditions, saying that they were often on call for 16 hours a day. But let's go back to the beginning, to 1977, when a father and son duo, Raymond and Dave Muller, Dave just in his mid-20s, decided to start an airline. They started off small, just a few planes and in a few cities. But in less than 20 years, it was setting trends for what a regional airline could be. By the end of 1999, it was a multi-billion-dollar business, expanded Concourse C at CVG, and had more than 750 daily flights. Then Delta bought it.
I think that getting through the announcement was probably the most difficult part for me.
More than a year later, the 89-day strike, then the 9/11 attacks, and talks of another strike in 2006. By 2011, Comair was a shell of its former self. Drastically fewer planes, fewer people, and a shrinking number of flights.
It's important to point out that there's been talk of Delta shutting down Comair before, and after the 2001 strike, we heard word of that. We also heard it again in 2006 when they were threatening to strike. Since then, the airline and its staff have been slashed to the point where the loss of Comair would probably have a much smaller impact today
Than it would a decade ago. Indeed, the memo to Comair employees last Friday mentioned that, quote, final decision coming from Delta by the end of this month. Delta has sold 2 other regional carriers it once owned, so there's still a chance that Delta could find a buyer for Comair. Guys?
All right. Thanks, Brendan and Hagit.